Leftist culture and Christian fundamentalism have a lot more in common than we want to admit. I'm a leftist and I grew up in pretty fundy Christianity. Whenever I make these videos about other groups of people, leftists love it, and I think it's time for us to do some internal self-reflection. Disclaimer, I'm not telling you who to vote for. I'm not telling you that you can't critique Kamala Harris. I'm not telling you any of that. First, we have worships the written word. Christian fundamentalism, being Bible-based is everything. Oral traditions are not seen as valid. Whenever you question them about their morals, or you're just like, hey, like, let's not be mean to women. They have Bible verses to talk about how women are less than. What's in the Bible comes before what's right. In leftist culture, the same thing goes on. And this is an issue not just like here, but also in real life. A lot of the times the theories and things that we read come before humans. With both groups, if you ever have a question or you're calling them out, they're going to give you Bible verses and they're going to open up a book about theory. They'll open the book and read you the passage. Both groups do that. Next is perfectionism. Both groups really struggle with the fact that humans are by nature inconsistent, contradictory beings. We have all of these deeply held beliefs, but we can't always live them out the way that we want to. In leftist culture, this looks like expecting people to participate perfectly in imperfect systems. It is bad for us to be voting for someone who is morally corrupt. In this culture, the right thing to do would be to vote third party. The issue comes in with the fact that by nature, the job that we're voting people into is an immoral job. At the church I grew up in, we had people from the nearby mobile home park come to church often, and sometimes they would come wearing things that aren't modest. People would be upset about that, but then you're like, they don't have the same resources to do the thing that you're doing to be perfect. Next, we have avoidant of the world. A lot of them choose things like homeschooling or private school to avoid the world, which is the sinful people who don't believe in God. They don't go to certain places or attend certain events if there is something that they disagree with in attendance, because everything is a slippery slope and they need to remain pure. We do a lot to distance ourselves from liberals because we believe that they are fundamentally wrong. We also avoid things like joy and rest. If you take a break for hope or celebration, you are now losing the plot. We don't want to be or be seen as the people who don't care. So we accidentally make things like hope, joy, fun, a slippery slope. If I participate in those things, I might get distracted. Image is everything. In order to maintain your influence, relationships, status, whatever, you have to present perfection. A lot of people who perform Christianity. This is why we find out years later that all these conservative Christian families were presenting perfection to us, because image is everything. In leftist culture, we are always signaling that we are still for the cause. Even if they're in a season of life where they're not as involved or whatever, they still want to be seen as a good leftist, which is why like we talk about virtue signaling all the time, but like leftists do it a ton as well. Because we do not let people be contradictory, inconsistent beings, they have to present a image as if they are consistent, even when most of us are not, even if we think we are. Next is the demonization of their own. You can be the model perfect Christian, and if you show up on accident wearing a skirt that just happens to be a little too short, is she really even a Christian? And we all know that the left eats its own. The slightest deviation makes you no longer a leftist, no longer a real leftist. Next are thought-stopping cliches, which I can be very guilty of this. In Christian fundamentalism, this looks like, oh, something bad happens to you. Why do bad things happen to good people? God is in control. They redirect your question because they don't have the answer. One that a lot of leftists used, including myself, when I was trying to talk to people about the harms of voting for Biden, they would say, but what happens if Trump becomes president? I would say they're both upholding a system that is bad. They're all going after the same goal anyways. And all these talking points that you hear on this app as well. But a lot of the times it's used to avoid very valid questions. It's not an adequate answer, but we don't ever actually want to answer the question because I still have not heard anyone in detail explain what happens if there is a Trump presidency.